The open Pacific, off the coast of San Diego, my home, and the home of giants. And no animal has ever been so giant as the blue whale. San Diego just might be the best place in the world to see this iconic species, if you know where to look. I've spent the last 8 years tracking blue whales off the San Diego coast, and each summer would bring some new discovery or behavior that I had never seen before. They may be the largest animal on Earth, but their lives are still very much a mystery. Over the years, the whales have left clues to their many secrets, and it's led to discoveries that I get to share with you. Every day I spend on the water exploring the ocean off of San Diego, I am repeatedly blown away by the variety of species and behaviors that I encounter. It is genuinely one of the most diverse habitats for marine megafauna of anywhere on Earth. The last few years, I was lucky enough to work on some of the biggest nature documentaries in the world, with all of that filming taking place right here in my backyard. There's just one small catch. It can take years for a series like Blue Planet to make it to your screen. And that's what brings us together now. Every day, our oceans have a new story to tell. But in our modern world of social media, those stories are replaced by fleeting snapshots lasting 15 seconds or less. It's been 3 years since I last made a full-length film for YouTube, and in 2025, I am committing to using this platform to share as many of our ocean stories with you as possible, without the years-long wait of a new nature documentary. As someone that's had many run-ins with anxiety over the years, there's nothing more comforting than escaping out into nature. But I know not everyone can just go outside and hop on a boat every time they wish they could. And that's the biggest reason I wanted to make this film. The only thing I love more than being on the ocean is sharing the ocean with all of you. So whether you're here for that escape into nature, or you're here simply just because you love these amazing animals, I hope you enjoy the show. This is a year in my life. 3. Common dolphins, the heart and soul of the San Diego whale watching industry. They spend their days foraging for tiny fish. And while small schools are all well and good, these dolphins prefer to order in bulk. The more abundant the fish, the larger the pod grows, until they become an uncountable superpod. The dolphins work together as a coordinated unit to corral the fish into a tighter and tighter shoal, making it easier for the entire pod to feed. And all of this activity has gotten the attention of even larger seafood lovers. Watch out, bird! In these abundant seas, there's enough food for everyone. In life, we rarely pay too much attention to second place. When it comes to fin whales, I think that's a mistake. Often overshadowed for only being the second largest animal on Earth, the world of fin whales off California is still very much a mystery. So when I came across this group of fin whales 60 miles offshore, displaying some sort of socializing behavior, I knew I was witnessing something relatively unique. We know very little about the social structures of fin whales in this population. Is this twirling ballet some sort of mating strategy? Most whales in the northern hemisphere do their mating during the winter, but this encounter took place during the heart of summer. Whatever was happening, it was beautiful to view from above. Despite fin whales being very common in Southern California, encounters with fin whale mother and calves are quite rare. These not-so-tiny babies are 18 feet long and as much as 6,000 pounds at birth. The first weeks of their lives, they rely on mother's milk to gain strength. But in less than a year, this calf will have to learn to feed on its own. And there's no better teacher than mom. With the calf watching closely, mom goes for a giant lunge. To survive a life on the open Pacific, the calf will have to learn this lunge feeding technique. This is one of the most unique glimpses of fin whale parenting ever filmed. Back in 2012, I was fortunate enough to witness a blue whale for the very first time. I didn't know it then, but it was the moment that changed my life forever. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the allure of blue whales is the reason I made whale watching my profession. As I began having more opportunities to film blue whales with a drone, there was one behavior I dreamed of capturing more than any other: a blue whale surface lunge feeding on krill. There is very little footage of this behavior captured with modern camera technology. Until now. A giant patch of krill on the surface, packed tight, and a blue whale is sizing it up. The anticipation was so overwhelming, I could barely keep my hands steady. I kept the drone fixed over the krill for what felt like ages. And then, from the depths, came the largest animal to ever live, and for the first time in my life, Its jaws were wide open. There are very few sights in nature that compare to this. Each lunge is 500,000 calories or more. This sequence was 7 years in the making, and it's my favorite thing I've ever filmed. Winter in San Diego is a time of movement. A pregnant gray whale on her way south to Mexico to give birth. But she's not the only one heading south. As many as 15,000 gray whales are making this journey in hopes of finding a mate. But some lucky whales, well, they find love along the way. I'll never forget watching this pair. They literally couldn't keep their fins off each other. I know we're not supposed to give human traits to animals, but if that isn't love, then I don't know what love is. To this day, it's one of the most touching scenes I've ever witnessed. All this PDA has made the other whales jealous. We now know that gray whales form long-term bonds with members consisting of the same sex. After consulting with some experts, it's very likely that every single one of these whales is a male. This big girl has been hiding a secret. A newborn baby gray whale. During the migration, a large number of the pregnant females don't make it all the way to Mexico before giving birth. So these little ones are quite literally born on the move. It definitely slows mom down, but her goal now is safety over speed. She's never more than a tail stroke away. With no time to spare, she must now teach this little one how to avoid danger on this 6,000-mile journey. Lobster traps and their deadly lines are a major risk for entanglement. There are hundreds of these traps just in San Diego. It's a difficult journey for any gray whale, but this calf will soon learn that not everything it meets is dangerous. A playful pod of dolphins wants to meet the baby. This encounter has Mom's blessing. Mom also knows that they must keep moving. The safety of their sheltered breeding lagoons in Mexico are still weeks away, and not every creature they meet in the open ocean is as friendly as those dolphins. Killer whales, the apex predator of the Pacific. This pod, having just successfully hunted an elephant seal, is now sharing the spoils amongst the family. This prey sharing strengthens their family bond. Even orcas have a soft side. Once everyone is done eating, the pod begins to play. Now it's time for target practice. I don't know about you, but if I was a bird, I would fly away. Like seriously, you're a bird. You can fly. Natural selection at its finest. Humpback whales. As little as 10 years ago, humpbacks were a relatively rare sighting in San Diego waters. Today, humpbacks are now the species we encounter most frequently. Flanked by dolphins and sea lions, these humpbacks are headed towards a feast of epic proportions. During the days of commercial whaling, the humpback whale population off North America plummeted into the low hundreds. Thanks to protections put in place at the end of the last century, the humpback whale population along the California coast has exploded into the thousands. It goes to show you that all we need to do is give nature a chance. As temperatures rise during the summer, tropical species like tuna become ever more prevalent. And the tuna are rarely alone. A Brutus whale, a relative newcomer to San Diego waters. They look similar to fin whales, but they're not quite as large. Their key identifying trait is the 3 vertical ridges running from the tip of their snout up to their blowholes. For comparison, this fin whale only has 1 vertical ridge running down the middle of its snout. The right side of a fin whale's jaw is also white, where a Brutus whale is uniformly brown. It's very common to see Brutus whales wherever there's tuna. Both fish and whale are looking for the same food source: anchovies. On a calm day, it's mesmerizing to view from above. These tropical conditions also attract some big game hunters. The always charismatic false killer whales. Rarely encountered, false killer whales have been making more frequent visits to California in recent years. And they roll deep. What you're seeing is just a small portion of a giant pod that was spread out for many miles. By our estimates, there was over 1,000 false killers in this group. Anchovies would be a paltry meal for an 18-foot, 5,000-pound dolphin. False killers specialize in hunting large fish like tuna and mahi-mahi. They may not look like regular killer whales, but they're still one of the coolest animals I've ever been around. A pod of common dolphins, numbering over 1,000. The favorite prey of a very special type of orca. These are Eastern Tropical Pacific killer whales. And they are some of the most prolific hunters on the planet. The dolphins know they're in trouble, and the panic is starting to set in. With the orcas in hot pursuit, the dolphins take off in a stampede. In the chaos, the orcas zero in on their target. And now the chase begins. The pod of 10 orcas splits into 2 subgroups, each with their own dolphin. One group works together to drown the dolphin. The other group uses raw power. This same pod of orcas has made more and more frequent visits to San Diego over the years. With over 450,000 resident common dolphins, it's not hard to see why. The end of each hunt is followed by extended periods of prey sharing amongst the pod. But it won't be long before this group needs to hunt again. Not every predation event plays out the same way, and some can be a little harder to watch than others. This time the pod targets a mother and her calf, and their goal is to separate them. The mother has no choice but to break away. With the calf weakened, the orcas don't go in for the kill right away. This hunt is a training exercise for the younger members of the pod. With the calf fully exhausted, the youngest orca makes his move. Meanwhile, the adult dolphin is doing its best to hang in there. The calf is the first to fall. And just when it looked like the larger dolphin had met the end of the road, the chase was back on. But these orcas are the very best at what they do. While threats from orcas maintain a natural balance, other threats are not so natural. Giant, fast-moving ships. The largest of which can be over 1,300 feet long, 200 feet wide, and 200,000 tons. More than the combined weight of 1,100 blue whales. While agile dolphins in the path of these ships can enjoy playing in the wakes, other species are not so lucky. This Brutus whale isn't swimming with its mouth open. Its entire jaw was shattered by a fast-moving ship. It's a threat that many of our largest whales are simply not prepared for. There's nothing that can help this whale. Official records say approximately 10 whales per year are struck by ships off the coast of California. Most experts agree that the true number is likely far greater. That's because it's rare for a dead whale to wash up on a beach where people are aware that it happened. Nobody knows for certain why this fin whale stranded on Mission Beach. It was thought that maybe killer whales had spooked this fin whale into beaching itself, but I personally find that pretty hard to believe. And since no real autopsy was performed, we can't say anything for certain. What you're watching here is authorities prepping this whale to be towed back out to sea, where hopefully it will eventually sink and become its own ecosystem for an entire variety of ocean creatures. This gray whale is a perfect example of that. By towing this gray whale out to sea, it will eventually become food for thousands of marine organisms. The sharks are first to the feast. Over the course of a multi-year unusual mortality event, hundreds of gray whales were washing up on beaches along the west coast. The primary cause of death was malnutrition and ship strikes. The gray whale population declined by as much as 50% during this unusual mortality event. Entanglements are another major problem. As many as 1,000 dolphins and whales are entangled in fishing gear every day. As much as we would have loved to try to disentangle this whale, it was still moving way too quickly to safely attempt any sort of rescue mission. In spite of the entanglement, this whale was still doing its best to feed. We can only hope that this whale will find a way to free itself and become one of the lucky ones that manages to survive an entanglement. Even with these challenges, there is plenty of reason for optimism. And there's no better place to see the power of conservation like the humpback breeding grounds. After being pushed to the brink of extinction, these areas are now bursting with whales during the peak breeding season. This tight gathering of over 30 whales is known as a competition pod. All of these whales are males vying for the attention of one female. Talk about a lucky lady. Back in San Diego, we occasionally see mini comp pods, where smaller groups of whales will display similar behaviors as they head south for the winter. This group was led by the famous whale Snowflake, who I've seen every year since he was born in 2017. As the whales dance towards the south in pursuit of a lady whale, one of these giant males decided he'd rather try to impress the lady whale watcher that was on my boat. This was Erica's moment. No matter how many encounters you have with whales, there's nothing that compares to the overwhelming feeling when an ocean giant seeks out a connection with you. Erica has been my partner on just about every film shoot for the last 3 years, often doing all of the behind-the-scenes work that you never hear about. Seeing the joy on her face during this moment is one of the happiest ocean memories of my life. After all, if another man is going to steal your girl, it might as well be a 40-ton humpback whale. When most people think of whale watching, they assume you must travel far offshore to find interesting wildlife. But that is not always the case. Thanks to a hot tip from a few friends that were spending the morning at the beach, we were alerted to the possibility of orcas just behind the surf break. The same pod of eastern tropical Pacific killer whales had returned, and this time they were hunting coastal bottlenose dolphin, a type of dolphin that's always near the beach. Bottlenose are 3 times the size of a common dolphin, so the ensuing hunt was even more chaotic than usual. At one point, as many as 4 dolphins were being pursued simultaneously, but they used their incredible strength and agility to evade many of the orcas' attacks. Eventually, the killer whales focused all of their energy on catching just one of the dolphins, and to this day, I've never seen this pod of orcas go hungry. When it comes to the Pacific coast off San Diego, it doesn't matter where you are, just about anything is possible. As a human being that feels emotions, it's hard not to be sad for the dolphins. But this is nature as it has been for thousands of years, and apex predators are a crucial component to maintaining the perfect balance of our oceans. As I mentioned earlier, witnessing a blue whale was the moment that hooked me on whale watching forever. It's hard for me to believe that there was once over 300,000 blue whales in the world, when perhaps less than 5% of that number exists today. Thanks to protections that were enacted in the 1970s, the population of blue whales that summers off of California is the healthiest in the world. And that healthy population means babies. In many ways, blue whale calves are a symbol of hope for the future of this species. Blue whale babies gain 200 pounds a day, almost exclusively at the behest of its mother's milk. For a mom to survive the energy costs needed to supply such an astonishing amount of nourishment It means she must have been healthy and well fed enough to keep up with such high energy demands. But we can't take such successes for granted. Many of the blue whales I've encountered in recent years have been on the thin side when they first reached San Diego. Luckily, there's been enough food here that many of the whales end up with energy to spare. One thing that's become clear to me is that blue whales are way more social than many people ever gave them credit for. On numerous occasions, I've seen outbursts where pockets of blue whales suddenly start moving at a much higher rate of speed, almost like they're playing some kind of dramatic version of Follow the Leader. It can get pretty rambunctious. As much as I'm sure the calf would like to join in, Mom has a different play date in mind for her little one. Bottlenose dolphins seem like a much safer companion for a young blue whale. Don't you wish you could know what they are thinking? My company, Gone Whale Watching, has made taking people to see blue whales a priority. And that's because I know from personal experience how profound of an impact it can have on someone to witness these near mythical animals in person. To give us the best chance to find blue whales, sometimes I'll just grab Erica, Kyle, my dog Finn, and just go exploring to try and find the best hotspots that we can. But nothing could have prepared us for what we found last summer. Around 70 miles from San Diego, the horizon became a wall of towering whale spouts. Everywhere we looked for miles, there were pockets of 10, 12, or even more blue whales. It's a memory I will cherish for the rest of my life.